Greg Haber, welcome to iSigma On Air. It's nice to have you in the podcast booth.
It's a pleasure to be here, Tom.
So you and I have known each other a long time. We've been at conferences and events for, 30 years, 25 years. I don't know how long it's been. It's been forever.
Something like that.
And you have more gray hair than I do now, I think. But I'm not
you
sure.
actually have a lot more hair than I do, so I take it in any color.
So I remember when I first met you, you had a little booth and you had about 800 locks hanging off the booth. So tell me a little bit, for somebody who doesn't know you, tell me a little bit about that backstory, and then we'll get to your current story.
Sure. So Babaco was a company I acquired about 30 years ago.
Yep.
And they had very limited products in a very limited region. So one of the at the time they were really focusing on liquor, tobacco, and a little bit of garments. So when I got involved in the company, I saw tobacco with the writing on the wall. So I started diversifying and looking for other avenues, looking for other sectors to do business with, and looking for value add. So how can I help a different industry? So somehow I heard something in the news about a very prominent company in this industry, and they were on the news for a very big loss.
Right.
So I said, I can help them. So I started reaching out, and I made some progress, and it turns out that they said, wow, this is great. You could stop that from happening. How? And I showed them, and then they had some other kind of a loss, and they said, can you do something on this? I said, absolutely. So really what I do is I look for problems, and I build solutions.
Okay, so before we go on from there, because we don't need to name the company, but what did you build those first two? What were the first two solutions you provided?
Well, the first
as an example.
So the locking systems that I built, they automatically lock. So instead of putting a secondary process like a padlock, you put it on the door, it's permanently mounted, you close the door, and it automatically locks.
So what the reason for the loss was because
they didn't lock it.
Driver forgot to lock it.
Yeah, they didn't use a padlock, and they didn't lock the door.
And so somebody opens the door and they have a loss.
Yeah.
Got it.
Or maybe they didn't close the door and they drove off. I'm not sure.
Oh, right.
To this day, I don't really know the details.
But the issue was driver error created a problem, but what you came in with a lock system that auto locks created a solution that now the driver doesn't have to remember other than close the door and it auto locks. Okay.
Exactly. So I control human behavior in a very small sense.
So you've done a number of these over the years. Tell me your favorite five. Like, what were your favorite five cool inventions you made to deal with a customer problem?
Wow.
Or three. I don't know. Or what just stands out to you at this moment?
Well, I mean, the original locking system was a roll-up door.
Yep.
So then I had to come up with a solution for a swing-out door because certain industries, for some reason, were using a swing-out door. And I thought, at the time, majority of companies were always roll-up doors. And then I don't know why the industry changed when they went into a swing-out door. So I had to come up with a similar solution. So I did that.
But our swing-out door, like I've seen those, you see trucks parked in the middle of the street, and sometimes it's the door on the side of the truck that swing out, where the ones in the back are the roll-ups. But now
they make trucks in the back are all swing out as well.
Right. Okay.
So I had to come up with a different solution that operated the same way. So you close the door, and by putting the handle in the right position, now it's automatically locked.
Right, because those, like you come down and you lift them up and okay. So, and that one creates, when you put it in the right place, then it auto locks.
Automatically grabs
so
just
cool.
as well.
Okay. So I've also kind of observed you over the years, and you're not just in the lock business. I mean, you're doing other things. What other kind of interesting things are you involved in?
Well, so from there, I also came up with a van lock for the same solution.
Okay.
So any type of commercial van, whether it has a roll, they call it a swing out door or a roll-in door for a van. So we came up with a generic lock that works on every one of those vans. Same premise. Simply by closing the door, it automatically locked. So we really just went through a whole gamut of making sure that every commercial vehicle door can be locked in the same manner by closing it correctly.
So like that has massive application everywhere.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So you must be a bazillionaire.
No, you know what? security has no sex appeal and no budgets, and that's the problem. So most companies don't have a budget until after they have a problem.
Right.
And then it doesn't matter what it costs, just get it done, make sure it never happens
Right.
again. And I spend so much time being proactive, trying to get companies to do something before it happens. And if I could figure that out, that would make me.
And don't you also? I mean, that I think I love what you're doing in that regard. But don't you also have like lock boxes that go in hotels, and you have like all kinds of weird and interesting stuff you're
But
doing.
they're all in the security field, so they're not all that diverse. So from the locking systems, the next step that I did is we really developed certain types of alarm systems that go in all types of industries. And what that actually, it works the same way as a lock in a way. Simply by closing the door, it automatically alarms. So it would be no different than when you left your house in the morning if you just closed the front door and it automatically deadbolted and the alarm system turned on without you pressing a button.
And you're doing that for commercial applications.
Only for commercial applications, yeah. So we've been doing that for years. And then from there, what we started doing is we realized that certain companies need to have another level of security. So when that alarm goes off, we actually notify them to tell them that the alarm's going off. So it's not just an alarm inside a truck in a parking lot that's going off that some people say, oh, who pays attention to an alarm system? We notify you. So we have customers in different verticals. Some of them have very valuable products inside of their trucks, and sometimes those trucks don't go to a depot every night. Maybe they could be at a hotel, and they're going from one point A to point B, or maybe they're not going to a hotel, but they need to be notified instantly when the alarm goes off. So we can tell anybody that truck number 123 is on Main Street in Maintown, USA, and truck number 555, and it's going off now.
So, but you're not in the alarm business, or are you? Like, is this a whole alarm?
So we don't have a central station because it's very involved to have a central station and to notify. It's called a public safety access point, a PSAP. So in your house, you're always dialing the same number, so they know the police station to call. But if a truck is moving, it's very unique. So you can't call a local 911 and say your truck could be in California, your truck could be in North Carolina. So you have to call the correct one. So what we do is we always call the customer, let the customer call the correct police department.
But it's functioning the same as a alarm system.
It
in
is.
my house. It's essentially the same thing.
Same
it just has
exact.
a different infrastructure behind
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
So we integrate it with the GPS, so we know an unauthorized entry at such and such a location within 2 seconds. No different than your house.
it. Wow. What else interesting are you doing? What other interesting, cool things are you playing with right now?
So right now, my passion is fictitious theft. And
Fictitious theft.
so fictitious theft is a growing type of theft that is growing exponentially every year right now. So recently there was something in the news about Costco, and they lost $500,000 worth of lobster tails simply because somebody else showed up, pretended to be the right driver, and they handed them $500,000 worth of lobster tails.
No.
It's just that simple. So maybe what they'll do is they'll send some phishing email to you, and they'll be able to monitor your computer. So Tom Adams is supposed to go to this depot at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, and they see that, and they send the bad guy in. He says it's Tom Adams, and he's there at 11 a.m., and they just hand him the load. But that's a small load. Within the last 2 weeks, there was a $3.8 million load of computer hard drives that was stolen the same exact way.
So I'm just trying to follow the logic here. Are they phishing the driver's email, or could be the corporate email?
Well, they're doing multiple things
Okay.
right now. So fictitious means that they're doing something in a way that somebody believes that they are somebody else.
Right.
So it's so simple. So they're doing it in many different ways. So they're doing it through emails, and they could see who's doing it, who's supposed to go there, so they send somebody else. Or sometimes what they'll do is they'll send a legitimate driver to pick up a fictitious load. So for instance, there's something called a load board. And you could say, I'd like to deliver a product from California to Florida.
Yeah.
And you must have this type of insurance, and you have to go from point A to point B. So right away they know it's a high valued load. because it has high valued insurance.
Right.
And they say these are a few requirements. So now what somebody may be doing in Eastern European countries could be anywhere across the world. That's what's happening today. So the bad guys are now in other countries. And then what they'll do is they'll bid on the load. They will pretend to be a legitimate truck company in the US because they are stealing their credentials through electronic means. And then they'll hire a legitimate driver. So they may hire Tom Adams Trucking to pick up these computer chips because they're coming out of a place where they think chips are coming from. So now all of a sudden, a legitimate company is being hired by a criminal in another part of the world to pick up the goods. So you'll go in, you'll give your old credentials, you show up, and now all of a sudden, when you're on your way, they'll say, hey, Tom, do me a favor. We change your delivery. Deliver it to this place. So you deliver it, you get paid, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, when they're doing an investigation, they come to you, and you prove that you were hired by this company, you got paid, and you brought it from point A to B. The load is gone, vanished.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So what I've developed is by listening to what's going on in the industry, I said there must be a way to digitize this process. And I developed an application that is you can modify just like an a la carte menu at a restaurant. And you say, these are the steps that you need. Because every company wants a different process.
Right.
And with each step, you can label it any way you want. And maybe it's a picture, maybe it's a barcode reader, maybe it's a multiple choice, whatever the point is. So you create a secure process. And then what happens is when the driver shows up, you can do a few things. So for instance, first thing I can do is I work with a third party that can instantly take your license and do a background check on your license. So I'll send you an invite, and my invite will tell you, show me your license. So it'll take a picture of the front of your license. Then it'll ask you to show me the picture of the back of your license. And it said, show me, and then now it's just, give me a selfie. Let me see you real time, like a face-to-face. Now what happens is that company can take the credentials from your license, because phony licenses, for instance, there was a theft about a month ago, and the back of the license had this information on the barcode, and the front of the license. During an investigation, they found the back of the license said that this driver was born in 1939, and it was a she. The front of the license was a man that was 25 years old. So those things didn't match. So they showed the license at the gate, they were given the load, and it disappeared. So what we can do is, A, we can investigate the person that's driving. So I send you a remote invitation, you do A, B, and C. Now I can do all kinds of background checks to make sure that you actually, Tom Adams lived at this address, and you actually received packages, and you know, there's all types of, maybe you had credit, you had credit card, banks, loans, so they can do those types of things. And then what happens is that information comes back to me as a shipper, and I can see that Tom Adams is a real person and an approved driver. Now I send you a QR code that you have on your phone. That's an invitation, no different than a ticket that you would have at a concert. You show up at the gate, you show it to the guard at the gate. The guard reads the QR code and says, oh, it's Tom Adams. He's approved for this load. And then they ask, and then the next step is the gate, take a picture of the truck license plate, take the VIN of the truck, take a picture of the BOL. That's the bill of lading.
Yeah.
That's the information that's going from point to B. So now you actually have all this information on the truck, on the person that's delivering, and you're tying that information to the load. Now that load is going to point B. When that truck gets to point B, this seal on the back of the truck, you could take a picture of the seal. If that doesn't match at any point, we're comparing data, information, and now the notifications go out to the shipper and everybody that something doesn't match. But a key point here is all that information right now is at your fingertips in the cloud. So if that truck doesn't show up, we have a driver's information, we have the VIN. Those things take months.
That is fascinating.
So that's what we're doing, and it's working very well. And companies are really surprised by how easy it is to adapt their process to a digital format.
Yeah.
And what it does is it gives visibility to everybody in the supply chain across the board. So today, you would receive a package from Amazon and you'd see, oh, it's at my door and here it is. But the transportation business was not that visible.
Right.
There's so many different key players
Right.
inside the market. And then what I can also do with that process is that I can take other vendors. So a vendor that's saying, like, I'm hiring Tom Adams Trucking. Well, there are companies out there that vet Tom Adams Trucking and make sure, Tom, I'm only hiring a company that has 100 trucks. How many trucks do you have? Now they see. So now that can integrate into the app. So now I have a library of companies, drivers. Oh, you have a GPS company. Well, why don't we just scan the barcode on the GPS and the BOL? So now we know which GPS company is tracking the load, which seal is on the load. You know, there's so much information that you can tie together.
That is seriously cool. How big? I mean, you just gave two examples earlier, but like, how big of a crisis is this right now? Like, is it a $1 billion crisis?
It's billions.
Billions
monthly, probably.
Seriously?
Yes, it's that big.
And so, like, trucks are just disappearing. Truckloads of stuff are just disappearing.
Right, all the time.
Oh my gosh! And like when you show this to people who have had a loss, because you know everybody doesn't like security until they've had a loss.
Exactly.
Are they like in awe?
We're right. It's really starting. People are starting to understand how does this work, and it's not a question of replacing what you have. It's a replacing of making everything that you have work better.
Right.
And that's what we're really focusing.
Dang. Wow, so that is really cool.
Yeah, so next week I'll be at a pharmaceutical security conference specifically just on that app.
So cool. Wow. Well, you have done some really interesting things. And like, I mean, I've talked to you over the years and you're always, like, your brain never stops, does it? Like, you're already creating some.
Always. But it's easy because all I have to really do is attend a conference and listen to the pain points and just say, look at it at a way. How can I solve this problem?
So, okay. So that the industry now that we're in, I mean, we're at iSigma, and this has been an industry you've been a part of for many years. How do you see some of this new stuff you're doing connecting? Like, because generally like shred trucks, I mean, by the time a shred truck leaves somebody's front yard, everything's shredded.
Correct.
It's not really a big risk there. But ITAD is growing significantly right now.
Okay.
And a load of ITAD, I'm guessing, has some pretty significant value stuck in the back of that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Where else do you see this industry can sort of take advantage of some of the cool stuff you're doing?
Well, I think the industry itself is probably going to evolve, and it's going to find other media types of products that have to be secured and either destroyed, moved, or stored in a special manner. And that's not something that can be done just on a handshake. You need to have a process in place. You need to be able to reinforce that process. Need to be able to notify somebody somehow if that process isn't being done right.
Right.
Secure it. So, I don't foresee my company would be able to do every one of those things, but we look for gaps where, what are you doing and where is the gap? Where is it vulnerable? How are you at risk? How can we solve that risk? How can we fill that gap? And that's what I try to do. I don't look and say, oh, I have a magic wand and I could fix that.
Right.
Well, you're using a company A and company B and company C. Well, how do we start tying those things together?
Yeah, it's so cool. I love this. It's just what I love about it is there's this gap in the industry, generally amplified by loss. And your brain goes to work and says, if we just do this and this and this, and you tie that together, you've got a solution that can potentially save billions of dollars a month. Yeah, really cool.
And most companies don't really look at being proactive.
Right.
And that's the challenge in my business because what I do is I look to always be proactive, and most companies don't move into, they're reactive. Yeah. After something happens, they're very open to hearing about it. But
it's interesting. I don't know. I always call this concept the bleeding neck. Okay. And the bleeding neck is like nobody, until something starts bleeding, nobody goes and fixes themselves, right? Like we by nature as humans, there's this thing in our psyche somehow, which is don't make sure you don't get sick. But when you get sick, you go, you pound drugs down at that point, right? Like that's I feel like that's our human
prevention would have went a long way.
Right. And I know we say that, but I find myself, I mean, if there's chips and chocolate around, I'm done. Like I really suck at prevention. But when, you know, I'm at 230 pounds, then all of a sudden I'm going, dang, I need a cure.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the nature of us. So I can see why it's so hard to sell. And you've said that to me over the years, how challenging it is to sell this type of thing. But it's really cool to have watched all the cool stuff you've built over the years and all the cool inventions you've come up with. And
I love the challenge. That's what makes me, that's what drives me, the challenge, solving that problem.
Yeah, it's really cool. Any last words before we bring this one to a close? Anything that you didn't talk about you wanted to talk about?
I think that you're going to see the security business go through a transformation in the next few years. I'm focusing a tremendous amount of energy and time on the next generation of locking systems. And I think that'll be NFC, near field communication.
Really?
It's built into every phone.
Yeah.
And what that actually means is that you could have a locking device without a battery that can be driven by any phone. So I can create a remote locking system on any truck using any phone. So I can send you an invite and you'll be able to unlock that phone. That can also be tied into that app. So now all of a sudden you're authorized to make that delivery. And then if you're in the right location at the right time, you tap your phone on that lock and it automatically unlocks and you will not have a key. And I'll have a record that Tom Adams opened up that lock at that location.
Oh, yeah.
And you may only have that access once. Or maybe it's like your card access system and you could do it for the next 5 days between 9 and 5. But every time you touch that lock, that information is stored in the cloud of who opened it and who accessed it.
Oh,
when and
well,
where.
that another piece to me that automatically ties back is now the fictional companies that are picking stuff up couldn't unlock a door if they don't. They didn't.
Absolutely,
get the code.
but they also would never be. They would also never be with that truck.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. They immediately get they get locked out of the system automatically.
And many times people say, "Oh, it's an inside job. It's the drivers." I think that is a good percentage of the time that drivers have nothing to do with it. They're just being used, you know, for all different nefarious
they're mules.
reasons.
They're basically mules.
They don't even know, but yeah. But this is going to put some more credibility to each step of that process.
So
and
cool.
visibility. So you'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. In a few years, we'll
Greg,
talk about
I have
this.
always been blown away by the cool stuff you're doing, and thank you for all you've brought to this industry as a result of your ability to see interesting security gaps in the world and solving them. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. I enjoy always speaking to you. Thank you.